Hey y'all, I'm Jen Leah, and this is my brand new podcast bringing you real life stories from up and coming female artists of all genres. If you want more than the mainstream, you've come to the right place. This is Women in Stereo. Hey y'all, welcome to Women in Stereo podcast episode 3. Today I have a really special episode for y'all because I had the pleasure and the privilege of speaking to one of the most amazing women with one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard in my life. It's empowering and so hope-filled, and I can't wait to share it with y'all. Before we get started, I want to say hello to all y'all who come over from Instagram. Thank you for following me, and thank you for supporting the Women in Stereo page. Hello to all the random people from Facebook and YouTube who just click on this wondering what it is. I run a female-focused Instagram page and website and podcast now on YouTube dedicated to up-and-coming women in music and their stories. So if you like what you hear so far, and you go back and you can look at my other 2 episodes, this is episode 3, you can like and subscribe. That really helps out my channel and helps out all the artists that I'm trying to promote. So thank you so much for that. Abi Flynn is a singer-songwriter out of the UK, and that's cool because she's my first guest on the podcast from the UK, which means someone else other than me will have an accent, so that's cool. And she's here to promote her song Courage and her incredible story behind the song Courage. It's very rare to have a one-on-one chat about the things that Abi has gone through. And it's just incredible, and it was very special to me, and I'm very excited to be able to share our conversation with y'all. If you are someone who is struggling right now, if you are going through a similar situation to Abi's or any kind of situation that is dark and a hardship, I hope this story brings you hope and light. And I think that even though we may not be able to relate to Abi's story in the same way, because it's not something we've all gone through, some of us, of course, but in a way we can, because we all really need hope right now, and we all really need light right now. And I just want to remind y'all, don't give up. There's always a way. There's always hope. And that's just something that we need to focus on right now, is focus on healing, focus on the light, and focus on love. So after saying that, let's jump right in and talk to Abi. Hello, Abi. Welcome to Women in Stereo. So glad you're here all the way from the UK.
Yeah, me too. It's so good to be here and speaking to you from, Cali. Wow.
You are my first guest from the UK on the podcast.
Oh, wow. That feels special. Thank you for having me.
So the first thing I always like to ask my guests, because Women in Stereo is all about introducing people to new artists, is tell me a little about who you are.
So my name's Abi Flynn, and I'm a singer. I'm a soul jazz kind of singer, I guess. Been singing my whole life, and I'm just released a first single, so it's exciting.
And you're here to promote your new song, Courage.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm here to show up and speak about the song and the journey and how I arrived here, and hopefully spread some inspiration as well, because it's been I've had quite a journey through adversity and illness and healing in order to arrive here releasing my music finally. So I just put a mission out for myself to come and actually show up and chat to people and get out there in the world with it now.
Yes, and that's one of the reasons that we're here, is you have this incredible story. You reached out to me, you told me, and it kind of just blew my mind, and I wanted you to come on and share it with all my followers. So
go at it, girl. Just tell me your story.
Yeah,
and I'll ask you questions along the way.
Cool. So I'm 30 now, and I've been singing my whole life, professionally since 15. And I had gotten into a place when I was 26. I was doing quite well. I had a record deal on paper. I was singing for a lot of really great bands, and supporting some amazing big soul acts like, George Clinton and Funkadelic Parliament and Roy Ayers and some real soul legends. So on paper, everything was great. But I was really insecure inside. I was really not sure of who I was or what my voice was, or my sound, because I did a lot of session work and a lot of featuring kind of jobs. And around that time, when I was gigging up to 8 times a week, and I was not really feeling, I didn't have any idea of my truth or whatever even that meant. I just had no relationship with myself. It was all about the stage and being outside. And then out of nowhere, I got diagnosed at 26 years old with a blood cancer called Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so that was like an 11 centimeter tumor in my chest cavity, coming from a lymph node in my chest. And obviously this was incredibly shocking. But it was really interesting at the time. I knew there was something not right with me internally. As I said, I didn't feel very connected. I felt like I was always rushing around and living for the outside, and I didn't really have any sense of me. So although it was really deeply shocking at first, something in me told me that this made sense, and that perhaps it was nothing to fear, but something that was coming to help me change trajectory a little bit and find out who I was. And so I actually went straight from the hospital after some time of having something going on with my chest. I went straight from a scan that showed this great big tumor in my chest to do a gig. From the hospital, I went down and sang to 300 people because I didn't know what the scan was going to be. I thought it was going to be like a chest infection or something. And
you
then
didn't expect that at all.
Exactly. Yeah, and so I went off and sang to 300 people in the sunshine, and it was the strangest thing, because immediately, as soon as I picked up the microphone and I got into my comfortable place on stage, I just had the first surreal experience of knowing that I've ever had, really knowing something just out of nowhere. I had this sort of feeling that this was going to be the making of me, and I didn't know what that meant, but it was like this message coming, you're going to be okay, and actually this is going to be beautiful. Don't worry, it's going to be hard, but it's going to be beautiful. And so from there I just went on to go the most crazy journey. I started out with medical treatment over 2 years, and that none of that worked to heal my cancer. It just kept getting worse. But along the journey, I started to really learn about what my body, and start to have a relationship with me, and listening to my body and listening to my emotions and things like that. And I ended up going down that path and really, building up this relationship that I didn't have with myself, and finding out who I was and what I love and what I need, and what difficult things were going on that I didn't know about. And I ended up channeling it all into my music. So when I was on chemotherapy, I put together an 8-piece band, and I wrote the music of my dreams that I've always wanted to do. And I didn't know if I'd live long enough to bring it out, so it was really crazy time. It was shiny and amazing and expansive, and yet I wasn't sure if I was dying. So bizarre. I don't know how I can keep going on, but I'll let you.
That is insane and incredible that you had the courage, no pun intended, to go out and start a band or even perform a gig after hearing all that.
Thank you.
It's hard to say how I would handle something like that, because I've never been through it, obviously, but I just feel like that's a very special personality. I might just be in bed no.
I think we surprise ourselves in these moments, because it's you can either expand your horizons and go for it, because you have to face your discomfort no matter what, or you can kind of contract and shrink away, I guess. But I think for me, I just had so much I was so repressed that I just had so much more to give. I knew there was so much I was hiding from. And I was so afraid to bring myself to the world. And that's why the song Courage is really about the challenges that come our way, the difficulties can be our greatest gift because they serve to kind of force us to have to really find out who we are and show up to that. And we can create our greatest art from that. And yeah, it was a real journey, but I ended up recording this EP, including the song Courage, when I was given a few weeks left to live, but quite not too long before we recorded. And the tumor was 21 centimeters in my chest by that point, and no treatment had worked. Crazy. I don't even I had to redo the vocals because I was on the set. I had hardly any space in my chest, mad. And long story short, I went on my own path to heal, and I really, really did a lot of internal work, and then the cancer reversed. And that's kind of a whole nother subject. But I wanted to bring my music out. Obviously, as soon as after 2.5 years, I finally was well against all odds. And then 8 weeks later, I got pregnant, even though I was supposed to be infertile.
Which is totally insane. Your story is already mind-blowing and incredible, and then that whole thing adds a whole nother level.
Oh my goodness.
Oh no,
I want to. It's I want to take everything and just take a piece of everything and ask you about every little part of it.
No, I've had to learn to condense.
It's just such a huge thing that you went through. Do you feel that your cancer set you free in a way, because you were saying before that you felt oppressed?
Yeah, it was really, there was a pivotal moment in my journey where, societally and understandably, we are kind of encouraged to fear illness or to hate illness, and to say, I'm going to fight this and screw this, and screw you illness, and and feel either really afraid of it or really angry at it. And actually, for me, what my healing was in the end was giving up the fight, or that there was an entity that was an illness that was against me, and actually starting to really listen to my body and see that wherever my body was out of harmony, or wherever it was creating illness, cancer really is just multiplying cells. That's all it is, in the form of tumors. And I would feel into my body and feel into these aspects and listen to them. And for the first time, I realized there was parts of me that really needed to hear hear me and be held and listened to by me. And I would start to have a relationship with those parts. And I started to see the illness as something that was actually coming in love to kind of bring me back home to the fact that I'm amazing and I'm beautiful and I'm powerful, and I don't need because I was full of self-hatred. And I feel like every time I hated on myself, I was holding it just where the tumor was, actually, for my whole life. And as I did that, it shrank. And it's it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be as simple as that. And even if people don't resonate with that, it's sometimes it's just, that's why the placebo effect even exists, is because what we believe we do tend to create. And I just was expanding my idea with what was possible, and believing that my body was capable of healing and loving it and saying, I hear you, okay, I see there's a tumor, but I believe that you're here for good, to help me. And it might sound crazy, but this was my experience, and it was the only thing that worked after everything else failed. And so, yeah, I really do think it was one of the greatest gifts, and yeah, despite all odds.
It doesn't sound crazy to me at all. I'm very into what you believe is what you see, and your belief can move mountains. Your story is just a very huge scale of that. Did you ever go through the cliche stages? I don't know what they are, 1, 2, 3, but denial, anger.
That's a really good question. I think for me, I learned a lot about myself through the cancer, of course. And I realized that the first thing, my coping mechanism is I wouldn't say it's so much denial, but it was almost like numbness. So I was so trusting that the cancer was here. Like, I so had this sign that the cancer was, I was going to have a transformation and it was going to be beautiful. I almost didn't process the grief or the anger for a long time. And there came a point where I finally let myself get angry and grieve. And I actually held myself in that process, and I allowed myself to go to that place of, I don't want to die. And it took me like a year and a half. But when I did that, that's when it really started to heal. It was almost like not just having the emotions, but having the emotions and then being able to hold myself and still believe that it was something beautiful, even in the ugly of the anger and the grief, and still choose that it was all okay and loving and safe. That's when it really started to heal and change. So yeah, I did a lot of emotional work, a lot of emotional, you have a lot of it in LA, like a lot of emotional healing work and inner child work and things like that. So, and the music, like all of that stuff was my healing path.
So it's amazing to me that it sounds like the entire time you kept this hope. Did you ever feel like this is it, it's over, or did you keep that positivity going the entire time?
It was really weird. It was like there's something in me just knew from the very beginning, you're going to heal yourself. And I was like, what does that even mean? And I would get sucked into the hospital or the people around me who were saying, this is really like, you can't cure blood cancer, like it's just going to come back. And people that were only saying what they, their own experience. And there were points where I would get sucked into that other reality and then doubt my knowing. And that's when I would get scared that my life was in danger. But what I kept coming back to again and again was every time I stayed in my inner knowing, in my heart, that's when like everything just started to, just those synchronicities and everything lined up, and I'd always get better. So I think now my mission in the world and in the song is really, really empowering people to feel for themselves and believe for themselves and not believe a destiny that someone else has given you or anything about yourself that someone else is saying, because you just like, you can defy all odds when you really, really listen to yourself. So yeah.
And I so wholeheartedly believe in everything you're saying. I remember I was like looking at your email and like reading your story, and I was like, see, this is what I'm talking about. You can make anything happen if you believe it. I was having like a rough day, and I was like, this is what I needed to hear.
Yes. Oh, I'm really glad.
So, tell me about your writing process for Courage. Like, when exactly did you write that song? Were you in the middle of it, or was it afterward?
I wrote Courage almost like it found me and it came through me effortlessly when I was having chemo, and I would have chemo for 7 days and 7 nights. So I'd be in hospital on a drip 24 hours in this time, and I would be quarantined when I was not well, and I was in quarantine on this particular occasion. I think I'd been in for 10 days already. I was really unwell at this point, completely bald, like sick, not good. But my spirit and my heart felt like luminous with light. I felt so alive. I was like, this is the weirdest thing. Like, outwardly I look really deadly, and inside I feel really lit up. And I was like, it's because I have courage. It's because my spirit can't be taken away. No matter, like, my essence and my expression can never be dampened, no matter what happens. And then I was like, I have so much courage in my soul. And just from there, like, it came through immediately. The weirdest thing was it was in 2000 and maybe even 2000, early 2017. And I didn't get to record it till a year later. And then because I got pregnant and all sorts, it was 3 years after I wrote the song now that I brought it out. And it's so interesting, the evolution of the song from when I wrote it. But yeah, goosebumps to finally have it in the world. I did not think I would shoot a video for 8 months pregnant, that's for sure.
And it's so good, and I love the video too. I know I was watching it, and I don't even know how to describe it. It just feels hopeful and inspiring.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
So you finished the song in 2017, but you just released it in 2020.
Yeah. I released
that's
it
wonderful.
on the 10th of July, and the video, just came out, and I shot that a year ago, and being a mama, that's taken me a while, so it's a real achievement finally.
And that's a whole nother thing. So, because of the cancer, they told you that you were infertile?
Yeah, so I had about 5 types of chemo, which is a lot more than you'd normally have for like one person, because I was quite young and healthy otherwise. But all the chemo made me more and more sick. It didn't help physically at all, and even one of those chemos destroys your fertility, and I had like 5 types. And so I not only did I only have one fallopian tube anyway due to an unrelated surgery, but I had gone to get my fertility tested halfway through chemo. This is before I even went up to the serious toxic stuff, and I either had no eggs, like the fertility was shut down. So I'd already prepared myself, that I wasn't fertile, I didn't have anything going on. But the more I kept on this path of inner work and believing and really talking to my body and connecting with my womb and things like that, I got my period back, and then I met my partner the day before my clear scan for cancer. I met my partner, and 8 weeks later we were pregnant, and I didn't find out for 3 months because I didn't know I was fertile.
Like, oh, hey. Did you feel a certain type of way when they told you that? Like, did you always want children before that?
Yeah, it's really funny. When I was speaking to like news outlets, they really wanted me to have that line of "I couldn't believe it, I was so happy," and but actually it was really traumatizing at first, because I mean, now I'm like overjoyed. It's a miracle, and of course I reached that stage at some point. But at first, I had just got my body back for 2-3 years, and I was in shock, like still in shock before I found out I was pregnant. And then when I found out I was pregnant, it just was, I had kind of, my whole healing journey for 3 years was, I'll be a singer at the end of it, I'll travel the world and I'll release my music. And so when I got pregnant, at first that felt like, no, this is a different path. It was really difficult, but then I knew it was such a beautiful gift. I knew that. So I was always going to pursue the path. And it took about 5 months, but then when I was 5 months pregnant, I started to realize that this was going to be my other greatest gift, and that the music and the motherhood could work together. And that's when I planned the video I was like, you know what? Not only can music and motherhood go together, I'm going to make the best video I'll ever make while I'm pregnant, and I'm just going to go for it. And it's kind of been like that since I've had him. Like, we've had so much time together in lockdown, and it's been really musically enriching as well.
You had a little baby boy.
Yes, Leo.
Leo.
Yeah.
Oh, so how old is he now?
He's 9 months now, almost. Crazy.
That's so amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing now. I think I couldn't accept that I was a mum for so long. I was just like, really, like, almost, again, I think with the cancer, like, I was quite dissociated at first from the cancer, and I think that's kind of what shock does. And I was kind of like, okay, I have a baby, but really wasn't like really believing it. Almost, I felt quite disconnected. And even though I look at him and be like, oh my god, you're amazing, I'm just like, are you mine, seriously? I'm still getting over that I'm praying, and now I've got a baby, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's just taken me a while to realize now it's landed, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm so lucky. And he's such a big part of everything I do in my life. And yeah, he's beautiful.
I can only imagine. I mean, you're hyper focused. You're in the middle of being hyper focused on healing and everything you're going through in your career, and then bam, you're a mom too. That's insane. You have such a huge plate to deal with for a single person.
Yeah, within a year, like, healing from cancer, finding a boyfriend, and then having a baby. And yeah, that's been interesting. Yet, actually, our partnership has blossomed so incredibly because we were just like two, like, quite like airheady visionaries. And like, actually, funnily enough, we were like, I want to live in California one day. I want to live in California too. That was the way we bonded. We, like, had crushes on each other, and then we did not know what we were in for. And we have grown so much together. Like, yeah, we're in it for life. It's beautiful, actually. Yeah. I mean, we've gone to the dark places, like, together, and been through it, and we continue to journey. We do courses together on conscious relating, and yeah, it's been interesting and wonderful.
That's beautiful. Are you very spiritual? I know it kind of comes across that way with the way you express yourself in your videos. So I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, I mean, my relationship to spirituality now is that I um I see that all of life is spiritual. I see that, like, when I first had, I guess, what you would call a spiritual awakening at the beginning of my cancer journey, I was defining myself as spiritual, and I was, um, really, like, very much up here and very in spirit and doing a lot of cosmic meditation. Yeah, the short answer really is that I am a deeply spiritual being. I mean, that I believe that we all are. And the way I sort of look at it and see it is, it's like a journey of inner truth, like getting in touch with your inner truth, and the truth that you are so much more powerful and innate and infinite than you know. And I think a lots of people, including me, when I first got on a spiritual path, in fact, now I don't even believe in a spiritual path. I believe we're all on a spiritual path. It's just life, right? And when I first got on it, I was like, oh, I'm spiritual. That means that I do these things and I meditate and I do this. And now I'm like, no, like, life is spiritual. Everything around us, my art is my spiritual work, like everything I do. And I guess now I call it more of a journey of, it's like deep inner knowing. That's actually a name of one of the sisterhoods I'm part of. But yeah, I really love that way of looking at it, like deep inner knowing. And I have a relationship with my body and my senses and my knowing, and to me, that's my spiritual experience of life. And anyone who's anywhere would call me spiritual. I use goddesses. I work with angels. All of that stuff, but it's very grounded and very, like, just part of my life. Yeah, it's not like, anymore. When I first got into this stuff, I was like, I'm spiritual and there's so much more to life, and da, 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 da. It was all very up here. And now I'm just like, I have ritual before breakfast, and that's just, then I go to work and I get,
Yeah, I think that's pretty normal. I think when people first get into it, they're just having like realization after realization hit them, and it's kind of like an overwhelming thing. And then, and you kind of like obsess over it, and then after a while, you calm down and realize it's kind of like an inward journey, and you're not so outward. I think to me, it's just about reaching the highest possible self that you could possibly be. Yeah.
That's it. And then I used to think of that as above me, and now I'm like, oh, so the deeper I go, and that's why my EP is actually called Get Deep. It's like the deeper I go into these layers of myself and these, like, petals of myself, like if I'm a rose blossoming, then
That's a beautiful way to put it.
higher expression I am, like, and I don't need to reach anywhere or worship anything or pray to anyone, because it's literally in my heart, and everything around me is an expression of love, and I am an expression of love. That's my experience.
Exactly. I love that as a super beautiful way to put it. So on Courage, did you have a band working with you permanently, or was that just the band that you hired to do that song?
Yeah, that was the band I got together when I was on chemo, and I was very lucky. I managed to get together, like, the top players that I knew from London and Brighton. I live just under London, which is on the sea. Yeah, and they stuck with me pretty much, apart from like one change of person. So, but obviously it's been, since I brought my music out, it's been pandemic, and it was like cancer, healing, baby, pandemic. So I need to actually get out and gig with them properly. But we did gig a lot when I was unwell. We did like some big London venues, and I want to get out to America. That's my real passion, actually. But who knows?
Yeah. Well, I heard that the UK was actually allowing bands to play live soon. Is that true?
Like I actually, I have heard something about taking bookings from October, but there's no guarantee. But yeah, I'm gonna try and look into it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, we're nowhere near that. I think all of the concerts that I was going to go see this summer were rescheduled to like sometime next summer. And I'm just like, no.
That's good that you've got them in the diary.
I know. And I'm totally about everybody staying safe and being safe, but I just miss live music so much.
Yeah, me too. It's and community and touching and connection. It's so important. Yeah, I'm trusting. It's like there's this higher plan unfolding. That's what it feels like. It's going to bring up a lot of difficulty, but ultimately, as I've seen in my life, I think the most transformation happens from those darker experiences.
I wholeheartedly agree. I've been going through a lot of different mindsets since quarantine began. And I think I've landed on the fact that I think that this is kind of like a huge transitional period for the world, and something hopefully bigger and brighter is going to come out of it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's a really beautiful way to put it. And yeah, we have to sort of see the darker discomfort before it can be changed. It's always, you have to go through it, feeling it to heal it. And
feeling it to heal it. I like that. I'm using that.
Yeah, feel it to heal it. And there's a lot of beauty in the chaos, isn't there? Like you see now there's like really beautiful movements happening and beautiful people coming together and beautiful art being made. And there always is light within the kind of the dark. So yeah, I'm enjoying seeing that. Special things. I wouldn't have even brought my album out, I don't think, if it hadn't have been for the pandemic, because I had been in so much PTSD and trying to carry on. And it gave me a chance to really stop and integrate and rest. And a lot of people I know have had that same experience.
I agree, and it's breeding a lot of creativity in people. Like as for myself, I started Women in Stereo before, but I didn't know exactly the direction I wanted to take it in. And now here I am. I started a podcast, and I'm sitting here talking to strangers and getting out of my comfort zone.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, so I think it's brought a lot of different things out of a lot of people. And like you said, just try to look on the brighter side of things.
Yeah, that's it. And there's a lot of projects all around now that are bringing people closer together than they were before any of this, because everyone's gone, oh, we need connection. Okay. How can we, people like yourself, creating all these beautiful ways to connect?
Yeah, and just finding new ways to create those connections. Like normally I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be out watching live shows and talking to people in person, but hey, that ain't gonna happen. So we had to adjust.
What kind of music do you do?
I don't do any music personally. I just do this kind of thing and kind of celebrate other artists and try to bring it to other people's attention. I've always wanted to. I just never really had the patience to learn. I can play like 5 chords on the guitar and
Same here.
Anyway, you can sing, so I feel bad for you.
That's true.
So when did you get started with music? Were you always a singer, or did it kind of come later?
I've always been a singer, really. Yeah, I sort of started professionally at 15, but literally, all my childhood I was writing songs and just really just lived and breathed music. That's all I ever wanted to do. And I went to music college and Yes, I've never really done anything else. So
That's amazing. So, but what made you want to be a singer?
it's almost like I was born a singer and it just chose me. It's yeah, I think I've always found belonging quite difficult. I think a lot of creative people will say that, but it's like I always felt like I didn't belong and I felt very alien. And but when I sang, I was very connected and I felt like I belonged. And when I was on stage, I was like, oh, this is I have a place in the world. And so it was just a no-brainer, really. It was like, and that's kind of why I got to myself though. It was my blessing and my curse because I think I got ill because a big part of getting ill was actually because I I wanted to live to sing, but I wasn't living not singing, and so I would only feel good on stage. And me getting ill and healing really was me learning how to integrate and embrace being a human being and being alive, even if I wasn't singing. So it's been like my healing and something I've had to learn to integrate. And now I feel like when I sing, I'm much more present and embodied. And yeah, it's nice.
So it kind of made you who you are. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, totally, it did. And it's been like knowing that I'm more than just that, but that it's shaped me in a beautiful way. And now I can say I love myself in a really real, felt, embodied way, in a way that's very healthy. And it's like if I feel overwhelmed, if I'm doing too many gigs, whatever it is, I'm like, I love myself enough to stop pushing right now and be gentle and listen to other parts of me that might just want to be a mum for a day or might just want to go for a walk. Like it doesn't always have to be sing for your life, sing for your life. So I've had to learn that. I think a lot of musicians go through that, or creatives. It's like, okay, you know when to stop. Like,
I feel you. I'm not a musician, but I've always been that way. I've had that same drive. I'm very creative and I'm kind of a perfectionist and I'm just always like, go, 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 go. There's a saying that's kind of, what is it? Be where your feet are.
I like that.
And that's a issue for me because I'm always looking to the future and see how I can improve.
And it has this profound way of when we like the paradox is when we can enjoy being that present, our future ends up becoming the very thing we wanted. So it's like when we can be okay with now, then actually we get all the things that we're trying to chase, but they just come to us. I've had to learn that. I think everything I've done since cancer, after learning, a big part of my healing was to trust and surrender and be okay with having cancer. And then as soon as I was able to allow like radical acceptance of exactly where I was and what was happening, then actually it changed anyway. And I think sometimes things can't change until we're okay with how they are. It's such a paradox, but then like we manifest the lives or situations of our dreams because we've said, okay, I'm going to surrender and I'm going to trust. It doesn't mean giving up, but it's like believing.
Exactly. I think the building blocks of manifesting your dreams or anything is just letting go and learning how to do that, which is for, I think, being human, that's the hardest thing to do. And I can only imagine how hard it is to let go of the fact that you have cancer and just trying to trust that everything is going to be okay.
It was a big journey to get there. It was like the moment that I was like, even if the worst thing ever happened and I died from cancer, if I can trust that even that would be like not something really bad and horrible and scary, but if I could trust even that would be something beautiful, like in, don't understand how or not, I can't possibly know how, but if I can trust that even death is okay, then literally there's nothing that I can fight against or fear. And as soon as I was willing to trust that, my body just seemed to go, oh, I don't have cancer now. I was like, it was almost like the cancer was, for me, was my fear of life, of death, of everything of myself. Like, and when I removed all that fear and that anger and that grief and all of the stuff I was holding on to, my tumor disappeared at the same time. Yeah, crazy.
So, do you believe that because you were holding on to all that fear and negativity, that it did kind of create that in you?
I do, yeah. My experience with it is that there were parts of me that I was completely shutting off to, like, just, nope, I won't feel that. I won't go there. I won't listen to that part of me. And those parts of me were very afraid or very angry. Anything that I decided was not okay to feel, I would always put it here, always, my whole life. And eventually, when I realized it was okay to feel those things, it's not about getting rid of anger or like getting rid of negative. It's not like it's about learning to live with those things and letting them be beautiful and letting them be part of the spiritual, beautiful life experience we have. I think a lot of, like, when I first got into spirituality, I thought it was about getting rid of bad things and being positive, and it's the opposite. It's like encompassing all of it in the divine love that we are. And then it's just like, oh, okay, there's no polarity anymore. It's just like, it just like unraveled. The tumor in my chest, literally, like, it was mad. I was like weeks away from death, and then within 4 months of doing this deep work and stopping all treatment, it just reversed completely. And it's a blood cancer, so it should have come straight back, but I'm 2 years in remission now and completely well and always listening to my body.
So, you stopped your treatment.
So you stopped your treatment?
Yeah. So when I finished chemotherapy, it had doubled the size of the tumor being on chemo because it wasn't my path. Chemo was never my path, but I did it. Of course, I did it at first because I didn't have the courage from the outset to do something different. Because that's, but especially going back 3 or 4 years, like, there was nowhere near as much of a buzz around self-healing as there is now. And it was very radical to even think about that. But I had 2 years of chemotherapy, all of it failed. I ended up with a 21 centimeter tumor. And then I was weeks away from death because it got to 21 centimeters. And the only other thing I could do was have radiotherapy to shrink it. But because it was a blood cancer, I would always need a stem cell transplant, medically speaking, in order to treat it. As like radiotherapy can't really treat it alone. It's in the blood. Anyway, I made a decision at that point that I was going to heal myself, but I did take radiotherapy to shrink the tumor. And then I refused the stem cell, and it was still quite big after radiotherapy. And then 4 months later, I basically reversed it all with no treatment at all. So it was like a combination for me, even though chemo did nothing, and even though I can't say how much radio did. Every part of it was perfect because it was all my spiritual path. Like the chemo was my spiritual path, the radiotherapy was my spiritual path, and so was, I did loads of holistic stuff and energy stuff. None of that worked for me either. I literally had to stop all external treatment and come straight in here. That was just my path. So, but I believe that everything I did before that got me to the point where I was able to go, okay, well, I've nothing left to lose. I'm going to go here. Because I wouldn't have been able to go straight there.
I'm sitting here just like blown away right now. And I think what you're saying, it parallels life to a certain extent. Also, we go through everything that kind of doesn't fit us through phases and things like that, and then eventually land on who we're supposed to be and the path that we're supposed to be on.
Exactly. And I had to do the stuff that was not true to me in order to come back to do what's true. Yeah, it's just the path.
What does your doctor say? Because I'm sure they were telling you the most bleak outlook, right?
Yeah, they thought I was bonkers when I said I wasn't going to do the blood transplant. Because essentially with blood cancer, you have the tumor, which they try and treat with chemo and radio. But because it's in the blood, it will just keep making new tumors all the time. And so to have loads of chemo and radiotherapy, but to not do the transplant makes no sense because it's like you're only getting rid of the tumors so that you can have the transplant, because you have to have the transplant when you're tumor free. So when I finished like chemo and radio, and then I was like, I'm not going to have a transplant, they were like, no, what? Like, you'll die, like, you'll come back. And they were really beautiful and kind about it. But before I made the decision not to have it, they were like, well, you need to have the transplant. Like, there's no, you're not going to be around much longer if you don't have it. But I just got to this point. I knew there was something in me. It was just like, do not have it. This is your path. You cannot afford to compromise your truth any longer. The only reason the tumor got so big was because I compromised my truth. And that doesn't mean chemo is not a good thing or radio is not a good thing. It just means it wasn't my truth. And therefore, all the more time I went against my own path of medicine, my body shouted louder. And yeah, so they didn't think for a second that, I would survive without it. But sure enough, I kind of beat all the odds and then like turned up just like really well. And I was like, I'm pregnant. But the thing is, when you live in a different paradigm to other people, like when you believe in things like self-healing and they don't, it will only ever, they can't like exit their reality to meet you in your reality. So they were just like, oh, well, we never heard of this, but it's just a fluke. You know what I mean? Like, they wouldn't say like, oh, this is a miracle, because that's not how doctors work. They're just like, oh, an anomaly. But what happens when you study the anomalies, man? There's like thousands of anomalies, and actually there's a pattern there. Somebody did. There's a book called Radical Remission, and they studied 1,000 cases of cancer that just reversed, and they put down as an anomaly. And every single one of those people had done inner spiritual work and lots of different things in that realm, basically. Yeah.
Oh, I believe it. And of course, they would just shove it aside. But I'm hoping that one day we get to a point where science meets this type of healing and it's not so crazy.
I feel like it's happening already. I think all of these things, to me, they're like, it's all quantum, it's all science.
It is.
With it. It's like science that we haven't proven yet, but that science is going to get to a point where it realizes you can't quantify and prove everything, because that's not the nature of existence. Because it's like we are sentient, feeling, intuitive beings, and you can't. Even Einstein knew that you can't like control and quantify everything. That's like man trying to dominate the nature of the universe. Just does not work. So much we don't know.
I'm a thinker. I sit here and think about that stuff all the time. I'm like, there's so much we don't know.
Yeah. And being okay with the unknown is a big one as well, isn't it? It's like, I think a lot of us are journeying that right now.
Yes, exactly. And it's hard because the new normal and quarantine, it's just, you have to find a way to accept that we don't know what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Actually, the first line of courage is, I have so much courage in my soul. All it takes is to relinquish the control, step outside illusions of control. Because it's like, actually, it takes courage to be okay with not knowing and to surrender. Like, people think of courage as like force and pushing. It's not. It's the opposite. Courage is vulnerability, and you can only have vulnerability when you're exposed to the unknown and uncertainty. Like, so we're all being really brave right now. Like, this is our initiation into courage worldwide.
Amen. It really is. I feel like your song's a soundtrack to the world right now.
I love that. Yeah. I'll take that.
So what would you say to someone who is going through a similar experience right now?
Yeah, I think my message is that, well, firstly, you are so much more powerful than you know when you dare to like follow your heart over what other people are telling you reality is, because we all have different ways of seeing and believing. And when you can choose courage, choose your heart, you can move mountains. The impossible becomes possible. And the other thing is that anything that comes up in your path that's seems really dark and scary and you don't want to go there, and it makes you feel like really uncomfortable, you like basically what we're all going through right now globally, if you can dare to lean in and trust that it could be the catalyst for your greatest gift, like you can create unbelievable things, like alchemy as I call it. Like in your darkest places there lies the raw material for your greatest highest self, and that's the truth, and it just takes courage.
So explain to me more about, you call yourself an alchemist. What does that mean to you?
I guess the original definition of alchemy is to turn base metal to gold, and it's transforming something into something golden, something beautiful. And for me, when I was told I might die and I was unwell, rather, at first, of course, I saw that as something really scary and dark and painful. And then I realized that if I journeyed through the pain and into the discomfort, it didn't own me anymore. And I actually had the power to move into the much higher spaces. And so alchemy is like turning your worst challenges into your greatest gifts, your greatest art, your greatest achievement, coming home more to truth. I think we're all like alchemists in truth. That's what I believe. It's just, really, really daring to go there. And sometimes death is the only, or something horrible happening in life is the only way that you'll go there. And when you go there, you realize there's nothing actually there to get you. It's just the idea, it's just the fear that stops you.
That's very beautiful. And I just want to say, I love talking to you. I love deep conversations like this, and it's not every day you get to kind of dive in with someone who has gone through the things that you've gone through, and it's very special and enlightening. Thank you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed speaking to you too. And if I make it to California, I'm gonna hit you up.
Yes, please do, and please send me any new music that you do. Are you planning on? Is Courage part of a bigger album that you're gonna do?
Yeah, so I've got an EP called Get Deep, and that was the EP I wrote through this journey when I had cancer, and it was really about getting deep into my truth. But the second single comes out in a few weeks, and that's called Testament to Love, and that's really about bringing the work relationship, and then Get Deep is really a path of deepening into the self. And they sound really spiritual, and they are, but actually they're just really cool, soulful, catchy tunes as well. So hope everyone enjoys. I got some seriously cool music videos for those as well that we've recently been shooting, so
Amazing! I can't wait. You have such a great, like, soulful R&B, but like really unique sound that I just really dig. I love it.
oh, I'm so glad you like it. Yeah, I'm marrying all my favorite things in one place.
Did you go through different sounds, or did you immediately know, like, this is what I want to do?
The point where I because as I said earlier in my journey, I did so many different things, but I didn't really ever do my music. The point where I was diagnosed with cancer, I just literally found my sound like that. It was like all the things I loved, I just got the most amazing musicians around me, and immediately like the sound that came out was like, this is my sound. And you can compare it to other things, and but I think it's what makes mine a bit unique is it's got like deeper transmissions within the words, which are actually really catchy or otherwise, or really like quite innovative and stylish, and they can cross over from jazz and soul to mainstream. But it's deep. It's deep music as well.
Very deep and very beautiful. And yeah, you can hear influences here and there, but it's very unique, and I really like that.
Thank you. Yay. Can't wait to bring the rest.
Oh, I can't wait till you come. I can't wait to see you live. I hope you get to come to the US soon.
Yeah.
Soon. And
Yeah, me too.
Well, thank you so much, Abby, for coming on. I don't want to take too much of your time. I think it's been about an hour, so I'll let you go. But thank you for coming on and telling your beautiful, amazing story, and I hope let's keep in touch. Send me any music that you have. You're a part of the Women in Stereo family now, so I'll gladly feature it and follow your career, and I'm a band for life.
Yeah. Thank you for hearing my story. It's been beautiful sharing. I'm going to go on your socials and see more what you're about and check you out again. And I look forward to connecting with all the women on there.
Okay, Abby, thank you so much again. I will hopefully talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you. Speak to you, lovely. Bye.
I
Bye.